So we live in an era of relatively high inflation. Guitars are way more expensive than they were 5 years ago. So today I'm going to do two things. I'm going to reveal the best value for money guitar, dollar for dollar, in my 80 plus guitar collection. And number two, I'm going to reveal a little bit of a cheat code that you can leverage as you go about finding the best deal for yourself in this environment. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I'm Utkarsh, coming to you from Singapore. Yes, it's great to be back doing guitar content after a little bit of a detour, doing a little bit on YouTube. You can check out those videos. Now, some of you are familiar with my collection. I have over 80 guitars, I've owned over 150. And I do have a preference for certain brands. So pardon me if the guitar that I recommend will be coming from one of those brands. But nonetheless, I do think that in an environment where you are subject to a lot of marketing, a lot of hype, a lot of features, a lot of information, sometimes you need to figure out a way to distill down what you really require. Now, the recommendation I'm going to share with you is not going to be the cheapest guitar that you can buy. I've talked at length about whether expensive guitars are worth it, what features in guitars make sense, etc., etc. And as I've told many times on this channel, you can perfectly well get away with a $1,000 guitar in today's environment. $1,000 guitars that you can buy today, PRS, SE, LTD, some Courts, some Ibanez's, they are amazing. But when we talk musical instruments, when we talk emotional things, it isn't only about what is the cheapest tool that will do the job. There is an emotional component, there is a feel-good factor. And that is one big reason why I am a fan of that company that has that headstock that you see behind me. And that is going to be the guitar I'm going to show you, but strategically you can't see all of it right now. That's one reason I'm a fan, because there is a feel-good factor to that company that comes not from brand building necessarily. It comes from certain things. It comes from drying a wood for an extremely long amount of time so that the wood is as good as it can be. Quite a palindrome or something over there. It comes from picking good pieces of wood. It comes from very exacting manufacturing standards. These may be technical specifications, but they make a difference. And there is a reason why being able to own any guitar that I want, I have, well, half my collection comprising of these guitars with those birds on them. And even though you can get very, very good made in Indonesia, made in Korea, South Korea guitars from PRS SE, there is nothing quite like a full-fat core PRS. When I say full-fat core PRS, I mean a core PRS. I also don't mean an S2, because there are three kinds of made in USA PRSs. There is private stock, which is super expensive. There is a core, which is where they started, and there's S2, which is like a cheaper version. Now, there are two or three pieces of good news. While new guitars have gotten very, very expensive, used PRSs, particularly used PRSs from the 2000s, don't hold their value very well. And these used PRSs from the 2000s are often knocking on the door of being half price versus what a new PRS would cost you today. And then when you look at certain models, you may find that they are actually knocking on the door of costing as much as a new made in Indonesia or a new made in Korea. In fact, cheaper than a new made in Korea guitar. And here's what you want. You want a full fat core PRS. You want something that has that amazing manufacturing quality, the best pickups that they could find, the best woods that they could find, the best finish that they could find for the purpose. You want something like that. You don't necessarily want the cheaper version of the made in the USA. You want something that has all the goodies, so to speak. Yet, you can get it at the price of a new made in Indonesia. In fact, you can get it for the price of the new PRS SE, the limited edition that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I happen to have something for you here, because in the mid-2000s, PRS did something. This is before they launched S2, which is the cheaper version of their made in USA. They took their made in USA guitars, they stripped down the guitar to its essentials, not necessarily to make it worse, but to build it with a different philosophy. Instead of putting a super glossy, a flashy piece of paint, which is one way of doing a guitar, They decided to go with the thinnest paint that they could find, which is a very thin satin nitro. Satin nitro is not, what should I say? It is not necessarily a cheap thing. I mean, it is cheaper to manufacture perhaps, but it's not a cheap feature. It's just a choice. Do you want to go for a gloss finish? Do you want to go for a cheap finish? So that's number one. Number two, they gave this thing in a proper PRS setup. You get everything. You get the hard case. It's sitting behind over there. So this is not some cheap cousin. This comes with all the forgetting the word, but comes with all the paraphernalia that you will get with a full core PRS. It's got a case. It's got the tag. It's a proper PRS. It's a proper made in USA PRS. Even if you go and buy made in USA PRS today, you'll get the same things. You'll get a case. You'll get the tags. There's nothing different. So this is not a cheaper cousin. Nonetheless, the design choices are to make the essential guitar, where it's a great piece of wood. It's a great piece of mahogany. Again, it's a different philosophy. You can put maple on top of mahogany, and that gives its own set of characteristics, visual, tonal, according to some people, including me. But there's a philosophy that says just go with a very good piece of mahogany. Just go with a very good piece of rosewood. Again, it's not about just being cheaper. It's actually just a different philosophy of building guitar. So what if you could have a full fat core PRS with amazing wood, amazing weight, and it is, as a guitar, no lesser than anything you can buy new today for $4,000, $5,000. But instead, it runs you at $1,500-ish, the same cost as a made in Indonesia PRS SE. And that's where this comes in. So back in the 2000s, PRS made something called the Standard Satin series, which is exactly what I described. These are PRS core guitars, but rather than putting in the flashy tops, rather than putting in the gloss finishes, it is just a plain mahogany body with a satin nitro finish, and they passed on those savings to the customer. Everything else about these guitars is a core PRS. It's the same thing that you would get today in a $4,000, $5,000 new PRS, which is the hardware is the same as the USA hardware, whether it is the bridge, whether it is the tuners. The pickups are what you would get on a USA model. So other than the fact that the design choice has been made to do satin nitro on mahogany instead of doing gloss nitro or poly on poly at that time for PRS on a maple top, that is the only difference. But the thing is, the Standard Satin series, and I'll talk about which one this is in a second, they go for almost, it's ridiculous how cheap they are. I have 3 of them. I pick them up between $1,500 to £1,300, in that range. With everything, with the hard case, all the paperwork, and it is just obnoxiously cheap given what a new core PRS USA guitar goes for today. And these are not S2s, because S2s today come with cheaper hardware. They come with cheaper hardware. They used to come with cheaper pickups as well. Now they're making some small changes. I've talked about this on the channel. But this is nothing. This is a core. This is nothing different from a core. This is a core except with a different design choice. So I want to talk about this particular guitar. This is a Singlecut Satin, Singlecut Trem. So Singlecut Trem means it's got a thinner body, it's got a tremolo, and this comes with soap bars. And this for me is the pick of the lot, because it's got so much goodness in one guitar. It's got P90, soap bars, always a great thing. It's got a tremolo, gives you versatility. It's a single cut shape, which a lot of us love. It's got everything going. But nonetheless, you can get the same model with humbuckers. You can get it with humbuckers. You can get it with hardtail. So you can have humbuckers with hardtail, humbuckers with trem. And you can also get this in a double cut. And this entire Standard Satin series is the sweet spot of value in the guitar market. I'm not trying to put any caveats here. What is the best guitar? How Anderton's the best guitar for £1,000, or build a rig for £1,000 or £2,000, but you're only picking new stuff. They have to do that because they're promoting the guitars they're selling. But I have no constraints. I'm not selling anything. So real money that you have earned and spent your time and effort on, if you have to spend real money, dollar for dollar, I think this is it. I struggle to think of anything better for the price point. $1,500. Looking at the new market, you're talking about pretty decent made in Indonesia guitars, maybe some made in China guitars. Made in Korea guitars are beyond that price point, honestly, right now. And as nice as those guitars are, as amazing as they are for the price point, they cannot compete with something that was basically built to the standard of what is a $5,000 guitar today, right? Inflation adjusted. So if you build something to the standard for $5,000 guitar, albeit these didn't cost $5,000 when they were new. They cost about, I think, about $2,500, but they were slightly cheaper because I think a normal PRS cost $3,000 then or something like that. So they were built to the same standard, but they were slightly cheaper because it's cheaper to do the manufacturing on this one. But they were built to that standard, the same standard a $5,000 guitar is built to today. So you cannot compare a $5,000 guitar to a $1,500 guitar, right? You cannot compare what happens when, on a core guitar in PRS's Maryland factory to what happens in the excellent factory, but still a more mass factory, a faster producing factory, a lower cost factory in Indonesia. So that's what this is. This truly is getting your Mercedes or BMW for a low-end Toyota money. That's kind of what this is in a way. Not to disparage Toyota. Toyota makes excellent cars, but I'm just trying to give an example over here. And if somebody reaches out to me and say that, you know what, I have functional guitars, but I would like to have a really, really nice guitar, and I'm afraid I'll never be able to afford any of them. I tell them, look used and look for these gaps in the market. Because no one famous has played these guitars, they aren't valued that much, even though they are just amazing. Right? I would put this up against my 1974 Les Paul Custom, which probably costs 10 times as much, right? Because the 1974 Les Paul Custom, Randy Rhoads, I have it in Alpine White. I'll put it up against that. I'll put it up against my private stock. It's a beautiful sounding guitar. The satin finish, the really thin finish, the P90s gives it a very organic voice. It is, I know sound is subjective, so forget what I say on sound. Just in terms of playability, there is nothing lacking. This plays like a $10,000 or $15,000 guitar because I have $10,000, $15,000 guitars hanging behind me. I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, don't think that just because you don't have all the budget in the world that you can't get something nice. You still can. This is one of those examples. I'm sure there are plenty of others for other brands which I don't know because I don't know other brands that well. You can definitely get it. A lot of stuff, pricing that is built into products is not only due to the inherent quality of the product. Sometimes it's due to marketing. Think of all that stuff that Gibson does. Sometimes it's due to scarcity. The reason PRS private stock is so expensive is getting those beautiful woods is scarcer. It does not mean that a scarcer wood necessarily sounds better or plays better. It just means it's much more scarce to get a piece of Brazilian rosewood or a piece of kingwood or whatever. So do not be dissuaded by that. Right? So there are plenty of reasons why things are priced the way they are. They're not always due to inherent playability, inherent sound, inherent quality. There are differences between a $1,500 guitar and a new guitar and a $5,000 new guitar. Some of those are to do with quality, and you get all that quality of a $5,000 new guitar in this $1,500 used guitar. Okay, so this is the cheat code. Look for the PRS standard Satin series from the mid-2000s. Plenty of options. You can find quite a few of them. And I'll end this with a short playing demo of this guitar, not much, just to give you a sense of its organic sound, the kind of middle ground that only P90s can occupy. All right, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.